Does height matter at all in Football Manager? About a month ago, we did an experiment where we looked to see if height or jumping reach was more important for players winning headers in Football Manager. At the time, we created two teams. One team who was very tall but only had one jumping reach. Another team who was very short but they had 20 jumping reach. And the results were definitive. The team with 20 jumping reach, despite being very short, won pretty much all of the headers and were absolute beasts throughout one season as far as winning headers in the league was concerned. However, despite those definitive results, as you all pointed out in the comments, this left one question remaining about whether or not height matters in Football Manager. And that is whether two players or two teams who have the exact same jumping reach, if they have different heights, will height essentially act as a tiebreaker for winning headers in the match engine? And I think this is a worthwhile question to explore because if you're looking at it, two center backs, for example, and they have the exact same jumping reach and a similar attribute spread, if one is taller than the other, would that be a reason to sign that player? Or should you be looking at other factors to decide whether or not that is a player you want to sign? So with that in mind, I have created two identical teams. The first team here is going to be Kaya, and all of their players are identical in that they are all average players, with every single player having 10 jumping reach. But the important thing to note about this team is they are all 6'11". So for example, here Arnel Amita is 6'11 with 10 jumping reach. All the way down to Connor Titagni here, who again is the exact same player. He has 10 jumping reach and he has 6'11. And I have done this for every single player on this Kaya squad. But on the flip side, their opponents, who are going to be Mendiola here, if we look at their team, they have the exact same attributes. So they're also the average player, with every single player having 10 jumping reach. But the important thing to note here is they are all 4'11". So Hamid Hajimati here is very short, all the way to Patrick Silvestre, who is also 4'11 and very short. So we have an entire team of players here who are exactly average, but they're all very short. So we are going to see here if when jumping reach is exactly the same between two teams, could height be the kind of tie-breaking factor that allows one team to be better in the air than the other team? And here is our match. Kaya look absolutely huge. All of their players are 6'11". Mendiola's players in red are all 4'11". And we are going to see, with the same jumping reach, will one team be better at winning headers than the other? So the variable that we're going to be looking at in game is the headers won variable right here. So as we can see right now, we're about 6 minutes into the match, and Mendiola, the shorter team, have actually won more headers. Obviously, though, we're going to wait and see how the match pans out. But assuming that height does matter, we would expect Kaya to win significantly more headers. However, my hypothesis is that given they both have 10 jumping reach, I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up being fairly 50-50. All right, here we go. Free kick. Let's see. Header, and it did go to Justin Boss, but that looked pretty normal animation. Things right now, pretty much 50-50, exactly what we're expecting. Well, we have reached halftime. The headers won is so even. It's 55% of the challenged headers here. For Kaya, they've won. It's been about 40% for Mendiola. It's been ranging between 40 to 50% for each side. This isn't a big enough difference so far to say that height is really making a difference. Like, this is just within the normal for any match, but we'll see how the second half goes. You know, maybe if Kaya can pull away, we'd probably need to see about 65% towards Kaya here to really say that height is a big tiebreaker when jumping reach is equal. Right now, things are pretty much the same. It's 3-0. Let's go into the second half. All right, throw in here. And I mean, 4'11", he's just the one who won the header. We sort of saw two headers there, both of them won by Mendiola, but That was actually a pretty interesting animation. Here we go. Corner kick. This is what we're looking for. Corner goes in. Well cleared by, I mean, it's pretty even, but well cleared by the 6'11 Kaya side. But like the jumping reaches looked equal there. And in the previous animation, like I don't see one team winning so many more of the headers over the other. And looking at it right now, again, it's about 50% for both sides. All right, but Kaya winning a few headers here. But there we go. Mendiola won that one. I mean, just as Kaya started winning a few headers, Mendiola won that one. I mean, in a situation where you would expect a 6'11 side to win the header. Free kick here. It's crossed in, won by the 6'11 side as it goes over. But there you go. Kaya winning a header there. But again, it just seems pretty even so far. Let's see what we have with the corner here. Generally, this favors the defensive team. You would expect Kaya to win it there. They did win it, but then on that header, Mendiola won it. It's so even. All right, are we going to float one into the back post here? No, and then that's a header cleared. Another header cleared. The one that I thought Kaya would have really definitely win. Oh, good ball. Good ball in. Great ball over the top. And we nearly had a headed goal. That wasn't a contested header, but that just looked like a funny animation. All right. The match has concluded, and I think we can definitively say at this point that height does not matter. Kaya won 47% of their headers, 26 of 55 opportunities. Mendiola won 45%, 27 of 60 opportunities. That is essentially equal within 2% of each other. It is very, very definitive here. Height does not act as a tiebreaker for jumping reach. Jumping reach is what matters in the match engine. It seems like height is for animation purposes. This result is pretty clear. Almost exactly even headers won ratio. This is conclusive in my opinion. Well, I think the results of that are pretty conclusive. Height is just not a factor in the match engine. This goes to show that just as Football Manager advertises, it's the attributes of each player that define how they're going to perform in the match engine. This is proof that jumping reach is the only thing that matters. I mean, like strength and other things are going to matter too, because that's going to help them vie per position and all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, jumping reach is the only thing that matters for how high they're going to get to win the ball in the air. And this makes sense. Jumping reach reflects the highest point that a player can reach with their head. So even if they're a little bit shorter, that time difference isn't going to matter. I think people think about it in a way of well, it's going to take them longer to get into the air. But I think then the match engine just accounts for that by probably having them jump a little bit earlier. You can just time your jump a little bit differently, and you're still going to be in the air to win the ball at the exact same point. And to be honest, I think this angers people. I think people get mad, why doesn't height matter in Football Manager? It should. But I think what probably people don't understand is that it probably does matter, but just maybe not in the way that we think. What I would assume is actually happening in Football Manager, in the code of Football Manager, is that height gives players a floor for their jumping reach. So a 6'5" player would probably have a floor of 14 jumping reach or something like that. So it's not maximizing their jumping reach, but it's a floor. So it means even if they're tall and they can't actually jump that much, just because they're tall, they're still going to have a high floor. This means, their jumping reach can't be lower than, 12 or 14 or something like that. But it just doesn't mean that their jumping reach is going to be 20 each time. And for me personally, I think this is really realistic. Throughout my playing career, I've known lots of tall players who weren't actually that good in the air. And I've known a lot of shorter players who had incredibly high strength and jumping reach and were really dominant in the air. And you can think of players in real life like Wayne Rooney and Lisandro Martinez who win a lot of headers despite not being very tall. And I think this is reflected in game. And what I assume is happening with height other than being something that's important for the animation, is that it probably sets a floor for a player's jumping reach, and the code for Football Manager probably works around that floor. But ultimately, if you're looking at players to sign, I mean, this shows you just don't need to pay attention to their height. The height is information you can see in the game, but it doesn't affect the match engine. And if you have two players with the exact same jumping reach and you're worried about the aerial ability, I'd be looking at things like strength and positioning as far as tiebreakers are concerned, as opposed to anything to do with their height. If their jumping reach is the same, then they're going to have the exact same ability as far as how high they can get to win the ball. And it's probably going to be other factors, such as, again, strength or positioning, that are going to really determine how good they are in the air. That is everything I've got for this Football Manager experiment. I hope this has answered your guys' questions on what the contribution of height is in Football Manager. I think these results are fairly conclusive. But again, I hope you found this experiment to be informative. I hope that you've enjoyed this experiment. And if you guys have any ideas for any other experiments, let me know in the comments below. And if it's something that I can do, I will absolutely do it. I hope you all are doing well. I hope you all are taking care of yourselves, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.